Live from Melbourne, this is 7's Afternoon News with Karina Carvalho.
Good afternoon. First at 4, a passenger has opened an emergency exit and made his way onto the wing of a Jetstar plane at Melbourne Airport. Aviation editor Blake Johnson has the latest on this major security breach.
This was an extraordinary airside breach that happened just minutes after the flight from Sydney touched down here in Melbourne. A passenger sitting in the back half of the plane ran up to the overwing exit door, pushed past passengers in the exit row and opened the door, activating the escape slide.
What's wrong with him?
He was running on the wing and then I saw him slide down and holding on to the propeller or the turbine. He was literally just holding on to the turbine.
The Airbus A320's engines had only just wound down. Ground staff doing a remarkable job to de-escalate the tension before police arrived after a few minutes.
He pushed all the passengers aboard, who was sitting next to the emergency door. So he pushed them, forced them out. Few passengers were trying to stop him, but he was too strong for them.
Why the man was so desperate to escape is unclear. Passengers say the man seemed uneasy on board. Some heard him asking for alcohol at 8 a.m. Others think he was vaping on board.
People were screaming at him, "Stop, stop, stop." It was honestly so confronting and everyone's just screaming. People are running up and down. There's kids crying.
Federal police arrested the man alleging aggressive behaviour and breaching aircraft safety protocols. He was then taken to hospital.
Police have just released security camera vision after a hail of bullets was fired into a luxury stone benchtop business in Richmond early this morning. Detectives believe it was a targeted attack. Multiple bullet holes could be seen in the windows of the Aldo Brodick shopfront on Swan Street.
It was about 3 a.m. We just heard this massive bang.
I heard all the shots go off. I think it was about 5. I heard 2 little break and then another 3.
It's a really concerning site. Obviously we've been seeing things happening with the tobacco and everything else around Victoria.
We are new in the town actually. We have business in Sydney. We just moved in here 2 years ago. And we try to do the honest business. We're winning the jobs. But today is my wife's birthday.
No one was injured. The car involved in the shooting has been located burnt out in the Gippsland town of Moe. Police have withdrawn their accusation that a man was drunk when he allegedly hit and killed a food delivery driver at Port Melbourne on Tuesday. Dylan Wilson faced court today, accused of fleeing the scene before handing himself into police a short time later. The 32-year-old is on bail and will return to court again in December. Monash IVF has agreed to pay $56 million, putting an end to a mammoth class action. The settlement follows allegations the fertility company used inaccurate genetic testing and destroyed potentially viable embryos. Lawyers for the women involved say their clients made life-altering decisions and received unnecessary treatment as a result.
It's been a long and hard-fought battle. It is finally recognition that there was wrongdoing and that these patients, these group members, have suffered tangible, real harm as a result of their negligence. It was actually saying embryos were abnormal and not being able to be used for treatment when in effect they may have been normal and may have resulted in healthy children. Many people underwent IVF when having cancer treatment to only being told that their embryos were abnormal and to be destroyed. Some people will never have the chance to have a child because their embryos were destroyed. I've spoken to many group members. There's certainly been a lot of tears and relief.
Monash IVF has made no admission of liability as part of the settlement. We have breaking news coming in now. A light plane has crashed in Sydney's west. Bill Hogan reports from the scene.
Good afternoon. Well, the plane had only just taken off from Bankstown Airport and it was in the air for less than 10 minutes before something went terribly wrong. The Piper Archer ended up on the edge of Tyrone Park, a suburban oval in the suburb of Bosley Park. The aircraft coming to a rest in a small grove of trees. Witnesses have told us there were 2 people on board and both were able to walk away from the wreckage. One man, believed to be an instructor, had suffered an injury to his nose. Police have cordoned off the northern end of the park near the basketball courts. The crash happened just metres away from Mary Immaculate Catholic Primary School and not long before the end of the school day, where there would have been lots of children and families here for school pickup.
I think the pilots actually deliberately crashed in the trees to protect any children or families that could have been playing. Kids play down here all the time, every afternoon, basketball, soccer. So I honestly think that the pilot saved a bigger accident than what's actually happened.
Now, as you can imagine, this has been a big draw card for locals who are thankful that today they can describe this as a lucky escape rather than an aviation emergency.
In the US, talk show legend Oprah Winfrey has made a stirring speech at the Democratic National Convention.
And let us choose the sweet promise of tomorrow over the bitter return to yesterday. We won't go back. We won't be set back, pushed back, bullied back, kicked back. We're not going back.
The crowd also heard a speech from former President Bill Clinton before Minnesota Governor Tim Walz formally accepted the Democratic nomination for Vice President. We'll have a full report from Chicago later this hour. Long-range strike missiles for the Australian Defence Force will soon be manufactured at a new factory near Newcastle Airport in New South Wales. The facility will produce naval strike missiles and joint strike missiles for F-35A fighter jets.
This is the first time these missiles have been built outside of Norway. The factory will employ approximately 100 people in very high-skill, high-tech work.
$850 million of taxpayers' money will be spent on the facility, with construction expected to start later this year. A murder investigation is underway in the northern England city of Bradford after a woman and her 3 children died in a house fire. As Ashley Mullaney reports, a man has been arrested, police saying they believe the fire was deliberately lit.
Charred windows and doors tell of a horror story inside a family home north of Manchester, the scene of a suspected murder. Trapped inside the burning house, a young mother and her 3 children, just 1, 5 and 9. A neighbour's security camera captured the moment firefighters rushed to the scene in Bradford.
Woke up to some sirens and then I heard some shouting, so I went to the bedroom window and I seen little flames coming out the door.
I heard a big bang and then I smelled smoke and then ambulances and police officers and stuff were there.
They couldn't reach Briony Galworth in time. The 29-year-old died inside. Her 3 children, Dynasty, Oscar and Aubrey, just 22 months old, were taken to hospital but didn't survive. A 39-year-old man was arrested at the house and taken to hospital with critical injuries.
We believe that the fire was started deliberately, and this incident was domestic related. Detectives have launched a murder investigation.
This attack in England coming just a month after 3 children were killed in their Layla Park home in Western Sydney. The father charged with killing his children, accused of locking them inside the home and dousing it with fuel. Murders that shocked Australia. This, yet another domestic violence crime tearing a family and community apart. In London, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Major changes to the National Disability Insurance Scheme are set to pass through Parliament. Live to Josh Martin in Canberra. Josh, the government is looking to save billions of dollars.
To the tune of $14.4 billion over 4 years, Karina. The National Disability Insurance Scheme is one of the biggest items in the federal budget. The new laws will cap growth of the scheme at 8% and tighten eligibility requirements for those trying to get on the NDIS. The changes also limit the services that can be claimed. States and territories will also play a bigger role in providing support to disability patients under these reforms. Earlier in the year, it was revealed 1/5 of NDIS funding was being abused by organised crime and dodgy providers to buy drugs, alcohol, extravagant holidays, even cars, with the scheme losing between $2 to $4 billion every year at a huge cost to taxpayers. The Greens, though, and some disability advocates say the changes remove choice and control for participants and are quite angry that these laws are about to go through.
This is a moment of pain, fear and fury for so many disabled people and our families across the country.
It is an endless reform process where the words of continuous improvement are often used in a pretty banal kind of way around the place. This is going to be an ever-evolving set of issues.
Karina, the laws have passed through the Senate and will now go to a vote in the House of Representatives around this hour, where Labor has a clear majority. So those laws will pass this afternoon.
Josh Martin at Parliament House, thank you. Jane Bunn joins me now. Jane, it's turned into quite a pleasant afternoon.
Karina, the cool conditions of the morning quickly gave way thanks to lots of sunshine across the city and suburbs. We have reached a top of 18.9. That's in the city this afternoon, which is 4 degrees above average. This is a continuation of our persistent warmer than average stretch. This August has now delivered 18 of the 22 days above the average, with more to come. Avalon reached 20, most suburbs rose to 19. It is rather pleasant in a mix of sun and cloud with generally light winds. The warmth is all thanks to this persistent high pressure system that is here directing our winds to come in from the northwest. That's via Alice Springs, where it reached a top of 33 degrees today, Karina.
That's incredible. So is there more of this warmer than average weather to come?
There is. Temperatures will rise again tomorrow and across the weekend, and we do look at remaining above average for much of next week too. But there is some rain in that mix as well. I'll have more details shortly.
OK, that's welcome news. Thanks so much, Jane. Straight ahead on 7 News, Australia considers sending more Bushmasters to Ukraine, plus the Melbourne suburbs for more high-rise housing. And a Hoppers Crossing grocery store targeted by arsonists for a second time. Stay with us on 7 and 7 Plus right across Victoria. Welcome back. Both the Allen government and the Lord Mayor are today spruiking new plans for desperately needed affordable housing in Melbourne. Nick McCallum joins us now. Nick, what is the Premier's proposal?
Well, Karina, the government has earmarked 10 different activity centres around Melbourne, ranging from Broadmeadows to Frankston, where they'll fast-track building permits and increase height limits. Each area will be different, but in Camberwell, near public transport and the business district around Burke Road, the limit will rise from 6 to 12 stories. And within 10 minutes walk from that area, buildings can go up to 6 stories. The idea to increase cheaper housing closer to amenities. 20 years ago, Camberwell residents fought such a move and won. But the Premier says this time it will be different.
We have seen a shift. We have seen a big shift in how people want to see more homes built in the right location.
The feedback has been overwhelming. The status quo is no longer an option. We are looking at pulling all the levers we possibly can to ensure that we build more homes for Victorians.
So, Nick, that is the idea from the state government, but the Lord Mayor himself, he has his own plan.
Yes, he does. Nicholas Rees says if he's elected in October, he'll work with the state government and the Property Council to convert old city office buildings into apartments. He says there are more than 80 appropriate high-rises built mainly in the 1980s and 90s, and hopes inside them 4,000 apartments can be built over the next 4 years.
We will waive building and planning permit fees. We will offer up development bonuses, and we will put in place financial incentives to help developers make the move with their office towers towards residential.
So, Karina, both those measures are part of the government's housing plan announced earlier this year to build 800,000 new homes in a decade.
OK, Nick McCallum, thank you. A grocery store has been hit in a firebombing and ram raid attack in Hoppers Crossing. As Tyra Stowers reports, it's not the first time the supermarket has been targeted.
Now, police are investigating a suspicious blaze after the Middle Eastern grocery store here in Hoppers Crossing behind me was rammed with a car, then set alight earlier this morning. The car, which was used to ram the Middle Eastern grocery store at around 5 this morning, has remained inside the entrance for most of the day, and the suspected arsonists somehow mangled the bars out the front to gain entry. An employee from a gym nearby who saw the blaze called 000 on his way into work this morning, and it took firefighters just under an hour to contain the fire. And other stores in the industrial area here have also been smoke logged. Thankfully, though, no one was injured, but a community smoke warning was put in place for some time. Now, CCTV will be crucial to figure out exactly who is behind this targeted attack. Now, this is the second time this grocery store has been hit this year alone, but the owner has told 7 News he doesn't know why he's being targeted. The Albanese government is considering giving Ukraine more Bushmasters. Its military is believed to have used the vehicles during the surprise incursion into Russia as it hits back in the conflict. A photo has emerged of one of the destroyed armoured vehicles.
We continue to talk to the Ukrainian government about how we can support their efforts, and those discussions will continue.
Australia has already committed 120 Bushmasters to Ukraine and nearly $1 billion in support. A check of sport is next with Theo Doropoulos, including a Premiership Tigers retirement announcement. And still to come this hour, what's driving surging profits on Australian property sales. You're watching 7 News live from our Docklands Broadcast Centre. Theo Doropoulos is here now with sport. Theo, it will be some farewell party for the Tigers.
Oh, some champions are calling it quits indeed. Another Premiership hero announcing his retirement today. Marlon Pickett will play one last game for Richmond against Gold Coast on Saturday. It's now 3 at Punt Road to call time on their careers this week.
So it's a fair bit of emotion around this week. So our players can't wait to get out there and train today and almost like let that emotion out. And we can't wait to get out there on Saturday to not only farewell 2 of our best players to ever play the game in Dylan and Dustin, but really play for a couple of the other boys that are finishing up as well.
He had a splendid career. Pickett famously debuted in the 2019 Grand Final. Hawthorn will be without stars Will Day and Chankwath Jath as they push for a spot in September. Jath will miss a 3rd game as he nurses a persistent calf injury, while star midfielder Day has been ruled out with a collarbone and shoulder problem.
At the moment, it's just pain and soreness that's hurting him. He can actually move it okay, but it's just very, very tender and sore to the touch or any movement. So as soon as he gets that back, he'll be available.
If the Hawks make the 8, it will be their first finals appearance since 2018. Now, of course, they face Alistair Clarkson's Roos. They're minus a young gun Harry Sheasel. He's been ruled out with an ankle issue. Last week, the coach revealed North Melbourne was into Demon star Jack Viney, only to have him recommit at Melbourne days later.
Well, it's actually a little bit of a tactic of Todd and I just to up his price a little bit. Todd's Todd's getting an extra couple of sheep out of that deal and for his farm.
You have to see the funny side. Liam Shields and Hugh Greenwood have both announced their retirements. Well, Melbourne Storm legend Cameron Smith has paid tribute to his late mother after being inducted into the NRL Hall of Fame following a career that spanned 430 matches and included 3 premierships.
Mum was she was a big part of my life and a big part of my football career. She loved the game of rugby league, and I think she'll be pretty chuffed with this.
Smith was one of 4 former Storm stars honoured, with Billy Slater, Cooper Cronk and Greg Inglis among those joining the prestigious club. Olympic silver medalist Jack Robinson is back in the water in Fiji, hunting a maiden world title.
Hits it upside down, total control. Another big hammer for Robinson, pulls in, and he goes the distance.
Tidy work. The world number 3 won his opening heat at the final event before the world title deciding finals in California. World number 5, Ethan Ewing, also advanced, looking to secure his spot in the elite 5-man field for the finals. Fellow Aussies Molly Picklum and Tyler Wright also won their opening heats. That's our look at sport for the afternoon, Karina. Plenty more to come tonight. All the teams ahead of round 24. A pulsating final series to come. The top 4 decided on Saturday and the rest of the top 8 decided on Sunday. Massive.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge weekend.
Indeed.
Theo Doropoulos, thanks so much. A spear fisherman on the New South Wales south coast has had to fight off a shark. Will Brunkner and his diving partner were fishing off Eden when a 4-metre great white shark zeroed in on them. It charged at them 4 times before they managed to make it back to shore. Lucky them. It's coming up to 4:30 on 7 News Melbourne. Our top stories are next, including the latest on a major security breach at Melbourne Airport, a hail of bullets fired into a Richmond shopfront, And Oprah Winfrey and Bill Clinton add to the star power at the Democratic Convention. We're back in just a couple of minutes.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7's Afternoon News with Karina Carvalho.
Good afternoon. Again, our top story, a major security scare at Melbourne Airport. A passenger has opened an emergency exit and made his way onto the wing of a Jetstar plane. Flight JQ507 had just touched down at Tullamarine from Sydney. The plane was parked at the gate, but the activation of the emergency exit automatically deployed an escape slide.
People were like screaming so loud, and I was just like, I just put my head between my legs and expected the worst. And then I heard the door open, and I heard the whooshing of like the slide down thing inflating, and then I didn't even see him go down the flight, like he didn't even go down the slide. He was running on the wing, and then I saw him like slide down and like holding on to like the propeller or like the turbine. He was literally just holding on to the turbine, and like people were screaming at him, "Stop, stop, stop."
The passenger was arrested by Australian Federal Police and taken to hospital for assessment. Jetstar has taken the A320 out of service. A hail of bullets has been fired into a luxury stone benchtop business in Richmond. Bethan Yeoman has the latest developments.
5 shots were fired from the backseat of a blue Subaru into this furniture store in Richmond just after 3 this morning. The noise from the bullets was so loud it was heard 6 streets away. It woke dozens of locals, many of whom said they felt incredibly frightened after the attack. The offenders sped off down Swan Street towards the city and headed for Gippsland. The car was found torched in Moe around 6 this morning. The motive remains unclear, but police say they're keeping an open mind and working on a few theories.
Disturbing on a few fronts. Firstly, that people are driving around Melbourne with shotguns. And secondly, that they're willing to discharge them in a public place like that.
We thought maybe it was like a car backfiring, but it happened like again and again, 4 times. Yeah, really loud, deafening. Woke up our baby, which was a real pain.
We just moved in here 2 years ago, and we try to do the honest business. We're winning the jobs.
The car was stolen on the 16th of July. Police say the shooting is not linked to organised crime or the ongoing tobacco wars. They stress this was a targeted attack and there's no further danger to the public.
Bethan Yeoman there. A hero elderly neighbour has saved a family of 6 from their burning reservoir home. They were asleep when the 80-year-old leapt into action, getting everyone out just in time.
I went to loo and I come back. I didn't even get time to pull the blanket over. Boom! So I run to the lounge room here and I looked out the window and then there was another boom. And I thought, God, the house is on fire. I've got to go and get Andrew and that out of bed. And then I thought I'll ring the fire brigade. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to have time. Got to get them out. So I was bashing on the windows when I didn't knock the window in.
Investigators are still working to determine the cause of the fire. Now to the United States, where some of the Democrats' biggest hitters have taken to the stage on day 3 of the party's national convention. Tim Lester is in Chicago.
Oprah Winfrey telling the crowd when making their choice on November 5th between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, they should choose common sense over nonsense.
And let us choose optimism over cynicism, because that's the best of America. And let us choose inclusion over retribution. Let us choose common sense over nonsense.
But the key speaker for today, the man applying for the job of US Vice President, the Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz.
The freedom to make a better life for yourself and the people that you love. Your kids' freedom to go to school without worrying about being shot dead in the hall.
Earlier in the day, Donald Trump doing his first outdoor rally since the assassination attempt of July 13th. Behind bulletproof glass, he talked about the Democratic National Convention and some of the comments made last night by the Obamas.
You know, they always say, sure, please stick to policy, don't get personal. And yet they're getting personal all night long, these people. Do I still have to stick to policy?
In one area, Democrats are already claiming a victory of sorts. They say that more than 30 million Americans on either TV or online watched the second day of their convention, more than the Republican convention back in July. The real contest, though, is still 11 weeks away, November 5th, when Americans vote for their next president.
Profits on Australian property sales have reached their highest level in more than a decade. In Melbourne, 98% of houses and 85% of units sold for a profit last financial year. For more, we're joined by Chief Economist at Domain, Dr Nicola Powell. Nicola, thank you for your time. What's behind these record resale values in Australian property right now?
It really does reflect the record pricing that we have nationally, which is really helping to push profitability higher. But I also think it reflects the longer holding times. I think the high transactional costs with buying and selling property is keeping people in their homes for longer. And that means that you're riding the waves of more property price cycles.
Nationally, we're sitting at a 16-year high for houses and a 14-year high for units. Which city is performing best?
Brisbane is actually leading the way in terms of profitability. 99.5% of houses resold for a profit and 96% of units. And it really just reflects the consistent strength that we've seen in Brisbane's property market, not only over the last year, but over the last 5 years too.
Let's look locally. How is Melbourne faring in comparison?
Melbourne probably bucks expectation. It has the second highest proportion of profit-making house resales out of all of our capital cities. So about 98% of houses resold for a profit. We have to remember we don't have record house prices across Melbourne, and we've seen really sluggish growth for property prices over the last 18 months. But I think what it reflects is a larger pool of owner-occupiers within Melbourne's property market. Owner-occupiers tend to hold their properties for longer periods of time. And I think especially since the changes around land taxation, we have seen investors shy away and they have been replaced by first-home buyers.
Are you expecting this spring in Melbourne to be a buyer's or a seller's market?
I think it is going to edge towards buyers. I think spring is really going to present some opportunities, particularly for buyers. We've seen a steady stream of new listings coming onto Melbourne's property market over the cooler months, and that's consistently topped that 5-year average. So I do think in terms of choice, it's going to be one of the best springs that we've seen in many years for Melbourne.
And is that dependent at all on whether the RBA moves on interest rates? Because a lot of the analysts are pricing in a rate drop before the end of the year, even though the RBA has said not to count on that.
Rate changes can affect the housing market, and I think it's much more likely that we will see a rate cut early in next calendar year. But I think when we start to see rates being cut, it's obviously going to improve borrowing capacity. And I think that's a good thing, particularly for a city like Melbourne, which is much more affordable compared to our other capital cities. I think it will help to improve confidence. And when we see confidence improving, what we see is higher levels of transaction activity also.
OK, Dr Nicola Powell, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We may be experiencing a cost of living crisis, but that hasn't stopped people signing up for private health insurance. That's helped boost the profit of one of the country's biggest insurers, Medibank. But so too has rising premiums. National Business Editor Amelia Brace explains.
Medibank Private released its annual results here in Melbourne this morning, and on a whole it was very good news. The private insurer recording a near 60% bump to net profit, banking almost $500 million, and that's largely thanks to an influx of new customers. Around 85,000 have joined Medibank in the past year, most of them foreign students and visa holders.
So we've seen very strong growth in our non-resident business, so overseas students, workers and visitors come into the market.
It's not just Medibank benefiting from new customers. Data shows there were around 80,000 new sign-ups for private health insurance in the March quarter alone.
That's a substantial increase, especially when you consider the cost of living pressures that are on households at the moment.
That pressure is having an impact though, with 1 in 3 current health fund members shopping around for a better deal.
There's been a grim discovery in the search for a missing tech billionaire. Details next. Also, Taylor Swift's message for fans after a failed terror plot. And your chance to win $100 million. We'll check in with the lot ahead of tonight's Powerball draw. Stay with us. You're watching 7 News live across Victoria. Divers have found 5 people who died in the sunken super yacht off Sicily. British tech billionaire Mike Lynch and his daughter Hannah are believed to be among the bodies returned to shore. Ashley Mullaney has more.
Well, there was very slim hope of finding anyone alive, but that hope was dashed today. Rescue crews working tirelessly searching for these missing passengers, today confirming that they had recovered the body of missing tech tycoon Mike Lynch and his 18-year-old daughter. The Bayesian super yacht sank in the early hours of Monday morning off the coast of Palermo when it was hit by a freak storm. There were 22 people on board at the time. 15 people were rescued from the ocean. It has just been such a slow, painstaking process now searching for these missing passengers because the boat is now 50 metres underwater on its side. They have brought in specialist cave divers in the search, but they can only spend 12 minutes at a time inside the cabin. So 5 people have been found today, 4 bodies recovered. There is a 6th passenger that they are still looking for, and that search will continue tomorrow.
At least 3 people are dead and more than a dozen wounded after a strike on a school in Gaza. The attack, carried out by the Israeli military, also hit a nearby house and flattened the buildings. Israel claims a Hamas command and control centre was located within the compound. The White House says Joe Biden has stressed the urgency of reaching a ceasefire deal with Benjamin Netanyahu. Taylor Swift has addressed her fans 2 weeks after cancelling her concerts in Vienna due to a failed terrorist plot. She took to Instagram to express her devastation, stating the terror threat filled her with a new sense of fear and a tremendous amount of guilt. She went on to perform at Wembley, ending the Europe leg of her Eras tour. The numbers for Powerball's $100 million jackpot will be drawn in just under 4 hours. It could be our 3rd largest lottery prize of the year and the 6th largest in Australian history. For all the tips and tricks, we're joined by Matt Hart from The Lot. Matt, how many people are expected to enter?
Good afternoon. Yeah, it's a big one tonight, and if one person takes home that entire $100 million, they'll immediately become the 3rd biggest lottery winner in Australian history. We expect up to half of Australian adults to have a ticket in their hands. The peak of sales may still be yet to come. Last time we had $100 million up for grabs, the peak of sales was 6:44 p.m. when more than 7,980 tickets were sold in a single minute. So people do like leaving it to the last minute.
What are the chances of taking home the big prize?
Well, Powerball is certainly one of the most challenging of all Australian lottery games. So the chance of winning Division 1 is 1 in 134 million. So far this year, we've had 11 Powerball Division 1 wins. So we'll have to wait and see if we have our 12th tonight.
The total Division 1 prize pool, if one, is 50.
As winner hotspots, can you walk us through the Melbourne ones?
Yeah, absolutely. So Melbourne, Victoria as a whole actually had more Division 1 wins last financial year than any other state or territory in Australia. So it's got quite the winning streak. If we look around sort of the hotspots where multiple Division 1 wins were sold last financial year, you're looking at places like the Melbourne CBD had 4, Wangaratta, Kangaroo Flat, Melton and Cranbourne. And particularly there's actually some outlets like Melton Lotto, Vic Market Lotto, Champion Lotto, Kangaroo Flat and Wangaratta Lotto that all sold multiple Division 1 wins last financial year. So there's some good track record and we'll have to see if those winning hotspots continue this financial year.
What tickets tend to do best in this division?
Well, I have paid very close attention to this because what I've seen from last financial year, more than half of the Division 1 winning entries in Powerball were quick pick entries, so that's where the lottery terminal picks the numbers for you. Importantly as well, almost half of those Division 1 wins were thanks to one type of ticket, and that is the Power Hit ticket that guarantees that all-important Powerball number that you need to win Division 1.
Okay, Matt Hart, thank you so much for your time.
Good luck, everyone.
Australia's big supermarkets are in a battle for your grocery dollar. Find out which one is winning the contest next. As we take a live look at our beautiful city this Thursday afternoon, we'll also bring you Melbourne's latest traffic and weather after the break.
Exclusive new property report. The best and most affordable family-friendly suburbs in Melbourne revealed. Plus, viral sunscreen trends heading into spring. What works and what to avoid for all skin types. Start with Sunrise.
Together all the time.
If you've just joined us on 7 News, there's been a major security scare at Melbourne Airport where a Jetstar passenger has broken through an emergency exit and made his way onto the wing of a plane. He's been arrested by Australian Federal Police. Stay with 7. Our aviation editor Blake Johnson will have a full report in our 6 o'clock bulletin. Australia's biggest supermarkets have gone head-to-head in the battle to be the best. Coming out on top for the 7th year in a row was Aldi. Here's Consumer Affairs Editor Georgia Holland.
Good afternoon. Well, value for money in the supermarket is one of the main priorities for Australians right now. So where should we be shopping to save? According to a CanStar Blue survey, it's Aldi. The German chain topped the supermarket satisfaction ratings for the 7th consecutive year, scoring 5 stars in the categories of value for money, freshness of produce, deals and specials, and quality of products. Woolworths and IGA managed 4 stars each for overall satisfaction. Coles had the worst result, claiming 3 stars.
It's really important for families to find value for money, and actually we're seeing that loyalty has actually declined year on year. Consumers are switching to different supermarkets, but also shopping across multiple brands. Families are spending on average around 5% more year on year on their grocery spending. A family of 5 actually has increased by 14% year on year. So it's quite a big hit to the back pocket.
Aldi made a big impact to household budgets last year, with customers saving $3.4 billion. And during a cost of living crunch, every saving counts at the checkout.
A woman has put her own safety at risk by getting too close to a tiger at a zoo in New Jersey. She narrowly avoided being attacked after climbing in between safety fences. The big cat heads straight towards the woman, who reaches out to pat the tiger. The tiger lunges towards her, and realising her mistake, she jumps back over the fence and out of harm's way. That's a lucky escape. Now let's get the latest on Melbourne's traffic.
Good afternoon, it's Ian in the Lexus of Brighton traffic chopper. We're over Tarneet now, Sayers Road, where there has been a crash. That's been pushed into Reflection Boulevard and not causing any delays. You are seeing some westbound delays, all caused by construction works outside of a building that's being built right now. Be no one else in the Lexus RX Hybrid. Available now at Lexus of Brighton. Limited stock. Book your test drive with Lexus of Brighton today. LMCT 9879. Have a great night.
Melbourne's newest major festival, Now or Never, has kicked off for a 2nd year. More than 250 local and international performers and thought leaders are taking part over the next 10 days. Organisers say the vibrant program will attract 200,000 visitors to the city. Meteorologist Jane Bunn is back now. Jane, there is a bit of rain in the forecast.
Karina, there is indeed, but it won't arrive in Melbourne until after dark tomorrow, and then it'll clear out quickly, all gone before dawn on Saturday. Showers cleared northeastern suburbs early this morning for a dry Thursday across the city and suburbs. After a cool start, it reached 19 in the city in a mix of sun and cloud. Showers continued on and north of the ranges this morning, with the last of them clearing out now. A sea of cumulus cloud has been left in behind that. While the southwest experienced a cooler day, it still reached the high teens for most and the low 20s up in the northwest, 22 in Mildura but 15 in Portland. A cold front just clipped us as it moved on through. We're back in a warmer weather pattern thanks to the angle of the high sitting in through here. A system over in the west certainly has its skates on, rapidly crossing the Bight and approaching us tomorrow. This one here brings rain. It'll slowly develop from the west, delivering a few millimetres. It doesn't hang around long. It did have its skates on, rapidly clearing on Saturday. In behind that, we have sunshine and even warmer temperatures. Saturday in Melbourne is incredibly warm for this time of year. The next weather system moves in quickly too. This one starts here north of the ranges on Sunday morning. Then another burst spreads right across the south. This one does bring the risk of thunderstorms. We're in a very spring-like weather pattern. Melbourne has the chance of a thunderstorm on Sunday afternoon. Around the nation tomorrow, the warmth isn't localised to the southeast. Brisbane top of 26. Now that 26 is the coolest it'll be there over the next week, up and over 30 by Monday. Heading for 22 and mostly sunny in Sydney. In Canberra, we've got early fog and frost. Hobart has an early shower, then both those capitals are dry. Showery in Adelaide and Perth as well. Both have the risk of thunderstorms. To Victoria, patchy morning fog in the northeast, then we look over to the west. Cloud builds and rain develops. It arrives in the west of the state in the afternoon, central parts at night, and the east late at night. Now it is mild before that rain arrives in moderate to breezy northwesterly winds. Most of the breezy winds, so 30 to 40 k's an hour, are up and over the ranges. In Melbourne, the city's heading for 19, now may possibly reach 20 degrees for your Friday. Do expect it to be dry all the way through the day. Then the rain sets in for the evening. So if you're home in time for the 6 p.m. news tomorrow night, there is no need to worry about that rain. And Karina, as we go into Saturday, that'll taper off in the early hours. Bright sunshine comes out for Saturday, 23, maybe even 24 degrees. That's the warmest it's been so far this August. Saturday's looking great.
Get zero complaints from me, Jane. Okay, thanks so much. Coming up at 6 o'clock with Peter Mitchell, our exclusive interview with a family caught up in a terrifying arson attack. They tell Ainsley Kosh they thought they were going to die. Also, chicken prices, the latest to rise in the cost of living crunch, what you need to know. A warning for travellers about using third-party websites to book flights. And Melina Saris takes you to the site of AFL Max. It's the footy-themed wonderland for families coming soon to Melbourne. Those stories and more in just over an hour. For now, from the 7 News team, I'm Karina Carvalho. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.